recordings. So let me just so I want to welcome everyone to our August lecture series. What if you could add author to your name? Without further ado, I want to introduce you to our special guest this evening, Judy Katz. So Judy is a book collaborator, ghostwriter, publisher, and marketer. Along with obtaining literary agents and publishers for her authors, she helps promote their books to serve them as the ultimate reputation building tool. One recent project, A Question of Respect, bringing us together in a deeply divided nation, has garnered significant media attention and is a Wall Street Journal bestseller. Created a Holocaust memoir. Ghetto was an award-winning
Unbelievable.
She has completed over 50 books. Judy writes a regular celeb 80 column. These popular essays are on changing the conversation about aging, are featured on silverdisobedient.rocks. Judy is a graduate of University of California, Berkeley, and she wrote a weekly column, Meaning's Edge, in the Daily Californian for all 4 years. She later wrote for a medical agency and 2 McGraw-Hill magazines before becoming PR director for Madison Square Garden, the New York March of Dimes, and director of special projects for the National MS Society. She's a proud member of the Authors Guild and PEN America organization. So that's a little bio on Judy. She's going to get into more about her and how all of you can become, published authors and all that surrounds, getting into the publishing world. And hopefully one of you today is gonna, or maybe, some of you are authors or going to become, authors, and maybe we'll see you on the New York Times best-selling list at a certain point. So any questions that anyone may have throughout the series, you could just write it in the chat box, and at the end of the lecture, we're going to set a half an hour for any questions. So that you don't forget, I'm going to go through the chat one by one, and Judy will answer all the questions you may have. Judy so kindly also agreed for all the participants today to do 15-minute phone sessions that I'll email everyone at the end, that you could email Judy, and she'll set up a time to you to talk about, about your book and what you what you're thinking, and she'll answer any questions one-on-one with you. So without further ado, I want to introduce everyone to Judy Katz. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you, Richard, for this exciting opportunity to share my knowledge, because it is my mission, passion, and purpose in life to help those who are motivated to become successful authors and authorities in their respective fields. So thank you all for being here, and hopefully starting your authorship journey right here and now, armed with the knowledge I'm going to provide that hopefully can make the process easier. There will be questions later, as Richard said, and of course I have extended the offer to speak to you privately if any of you would like, but in the future. And please forgive me for relying on my notes. This is my teleprompter. It's really to keep me on target with what I want to share with you, which is a lot. So next week, August 29th, I will be 84. And a fun fact, there's a pool in my building. So I learned to swim this year at 83. If I can learn to swim at this advanced age, you young ones, compared to me, can write a powerful book, maybe a bestseller, whenever you decide to. And by the way, I have ghostwritten or edited 50 books so far, and I'm still at it. So as long as I still have my marbles, I plan to continue, because retirement to me is a dirty word. My brother Steve lives in Arlington, Texas, and he thinks that I should move there. And here's what I say, not to him, but to myself. Shoot me in the head. It's in the car, out of the car, in the car, out of the car. And if any of you drive everywhere, live somewhere where you have to drive everywhere, forgive me for saying this. You have no problem with it, but just chalk it up to my being a lifelong New Yorker and someone who walks everywhere and no longer drives. So now this New Yorker you're stuck with for the next 2 hours has promised to cover, and I will cover, how to know what your true story is, how to time block, how ghostwriters and editors work, how to get an agent to take your book to a publisher, should you consider a hybrid publisher, and what's involved if you opt for self-publishing. And this includes discussing the marketing and promotion of your book. So let's start with how to know what your true story is and who the right audiences are to tell it to. Let's begin with who you are here today. And this is an assumption, but I think I'm right if I say that there are 4 categories of people here with me tonight. One is some of you are thinking of writing a book, but you haven't done anything about it yet because you're not sure what the book should be. But you really want to write a book. And a second group of you have started to write a book. You've got some words down on paper, but you're procrastinating. And again, I think it's because you have a fear of, is this the right book that I should write? Will people want to hear my story? And you may need some help keeping your feet to the fire. The third group of you, I would say, are people who have a whole manuscript already, and you're just not sure what to do with it, how to get it out, how to publish it, how to market it. And I'm going to tell you why you first need some constructive feedback on how good it is and if it still needs some work and where to get that help. And the last category of people, which may or may not be any of you, but it is a category, which is you've already written a book, you got an agent, you got a publisher, or you self-publish. You put the book on Amazon and it's not selling. You put so much time in, had such high hopes for your book, and now you're not sure what you can do to market it appropriately. So the first thing that I ask people when I talk to them, my potential authors, I tell them I'm not responsible for how many books sell. That's the universe. That's word of mouth. That is marketing to some extent. But if you tell me what you want your book to do for you, what is on your wish list for this baby you're going to give birth to, this book, we always make that happen. So what do people say? Some people want higher paying clients. Some people want a national or a global footprint, a reputation. Some people want to do a TEDx talk. Some people have a story, but they're afraid to tell it because, well, to protect the guilty in their lives. They don't want to hurt anybody. And what we do sometimes very successfully is what I call a roman à clef, ROMANACLEF. It means a story with a key. And those books, which are true stories, fictionalized, do very, very well. And if you Google best-selling roman à clefs, you're going to be shocked at how many there are. They also make great Netflix series and films, true stories that are fictionalized. So I'm going to tell you, and you may already know this, there are about 2 million books that are published every year. And most of them are what I would consider a slice of ham between two pieces of white bread. In other words, there's no nutrition. They're not very good, not a lot of taste. So let me talk to each one of you about how to make sure that your book is not in that category and that it really does what you wanted to do for you. Let's talk first about those of you who haven't started writing a book, but you're thinking, and by the way, to me, a book is no longer a good to have, it's a got to have. And when I put people on the talk shows, get them in front of big audiences, get them to influencers, set up a TEDx talk, the first thing that's asked of me is, do they have a book? What's the title of their book? So having a book is a very, very important marketing tool. And it's something else that I'm going to discuss with you in a little while. So the first thing that you want to do is identify your core message. Like, what parts of your story, your life lessons, what you've gone through in life up to this point, what you see around you, what resonates with you, what themes or messages are central to your narrative, what personal experiences or insights are driving you, and also what makes your story unique. One of the things that I do when I work with people is immediately go out into cyberspace and see what other books are anything like it. What kind of audiences there are. How can we make sure that your book, look, since Shakespeare, there are no new stories. Shakespeare did it all, but we need reminding. And so it's okay if there are other books that are similar to yours, but there have to be in your story some unique, compelling elements. We want to know if, people love to read books that have a good setting. If it's a law background, dining background, cosmetic, fashion, the law. They love that. In other words, they want to enter a new world that you are going to, maybe as an academic. What is the world that you're going to show them and the life lessons that you can bring to the table, be it a nonfiction memoir or an inspirational book or a fictional storybook or a roman à clef. You want to define your story's purpose. So the first thing you're going to decide is it a memoir or is it a business book? Is it how to be happier, healthier, live longer, have more energy, have better sex? What do you want to write about? You need to sit down and write. The first thing you should write is a summary of the main events of your story, a beginning, a middle, and an end. This helps you in understanding how your story or the trajectory of your life or your business unfolds and where its core messages are. You want to decide what you want to achieve with your story. Do you want to entertain people, inform people, inspire people, provoke thought? Consider the impact you want your story to have on readers. Maybe it's all the above. What emotions or actions do you hope to evoke? And then you want to identify your audience. Who might be interested in your story by age, by gender, location, interests? For example, is your story going to be aimed at young adults, certain kinds of professionals? Like maybe you're an attorney and you want to write a book that'll be meaningful for other attorneys. Or do you want to write for a general audience? Look at books or stories that are similar to yours. Who are their readers? What kind of reception did they receive? This can give you insights into your potential audience. Research the current trends in your genre or your subject matter. See what types of stories are popular and why. So that is the start of what I want to tell the first group, people who are at the cusp of starting a book. Let's talk to group number 2. You started writing a book, you had an idea, and now you're stuck. So you find yourself procrastinating, and maybe you need some outside help. Because procrastination is fear. You're not sure of your topic, who will be interested, if you have what it takes. Maybe you're doubting yourself as a writer. And by the way, everything in life takes a team. There are very few things, if any, that we can really do successfully all by ourselves. So there's nothing wrong with getting help. And when I ghostwrite, these books are always in my author's voice, not mine. So I'm not a big fan of those who tell a drug addict, just say no. One of my weaknesses in taking off the last 10 or 15 pounds is chocolate covered pretzels, which I love. Of course, it's dark chocolate, so I tell myself it's medicinal. But again, you know, if you can get past your resistance and you can get yourself I call it an accountability partner. Maybe there's somebody who's written a book or really is an avid reader, and they can, I'm not saying they should tell you what to write. I think they can keep your feet to the fire by reminding you that you're supposed to be writing. Have you written? Can they see anything if you want to show it to them? But you can also engage a developmental editor, and I'm going to tell you what a developmental editor does. That's the kind of person who focuses with you on the big picture, like the structure of your story, the plot of your story, the characters. Even in nonfiction, you know, there is a plot, there is a story that you're telling. There are points and an overall coherence. If you have significant copy already written at this stage, it may need significant rewrites and reorganization. So having a person like that, and we'll talk about that some more, is very important. I offer a different kind of development when I start with people. It's a 2-hour session where we really get down in the weeds and figure out what book you should write that fits your life lesson, what form the book should take, and who your potential audiences are. Some people have a story to tell, but they can't tell it as it is. So again, they write it as fiction, a true story disguised as fiction. And many of those books do very well. So again, Google Romana Klepp, Story with a Key. Other types of editing that you should know about. There's line editing. Line editing focuses on flow, clarity, and style of writing. Editors address issues related to sentence structure, word choice, and pacing. Then there's copy editors. Let me tell you, you can write the most beautiful book, but if there's misplaced commas, misspellings, all kinds of typos, it looks sloppy. And agents won't get past the first 2 pages. And so that's the end of a beautiful book. So it really needs the last kind of editor, which is proofreading, the final step, catching typos and formatting errors and things like that. All of that is really easy, you know, and some people do a combination of those. I do a combination of those. So perhaps you're in the third category, which is you have a whole manuscript, it's sitting on your desk or in a drawer, and you're not sure how to publish it and market it. My suggestion is to first get some constructive feedback on how good it is or if it still needs work. You can test your story and your audience by sharing your manuscript with a small group of what I call beta readers who represent your target audience. So gather their feedback on how the book resonates with them and whether it aligns with their interests. Use the feedback and from your focus groups like that to refine your story, adjust the elements that may not resonate well with them. Have a thick skin hear them out, and assure that the core message and themes of your book are compelling for your intended readers. But I want to issue a word of caution. When you have a manuscript you feel is ready to be published, or hope it is, you may want to pay a professional to read it over and see if that person thinks it's ready for prime time or would make it better. That's what I do with my book evaluation report. As I just said, you can ask a few trusted friends, your beta group, to give you feedback. I just want to warn you that people who love you or work with you or sleep with you may not want to tell you anything negative. So getting constructive criticism from them can be iffy. At the least, you can go to some writers' groups for mutual feedback. It is a laborious process, and you may not want to burst anyone's bubble if you have to give them some real serious criticism. I understand if you don't want to or can't pay a professional, but that is your best bet, to be honest. If you go that route, always get recommendations from people you trust. Okay, so the last category is you've written a book, you either work with an agent and did get a publisher, or you self-published and the book is not selling. You put so much in, had such high hopes, and now you're not sure what to do to market appropriately. Okay, I will say that people come to me and they say, Judy, I spent 2-3 years writing this book. I put it on Amazon and it's not selling. Boo-hoo. And I say, what did you do to market it? And they say, market? So I say, would you open a retail store? Spend a lot of money renovating the space. And on opening day, pray that people come in rather than advertise? No. This is something a lot of people don't realize because it stops before the marketing. And you have to understand, and we're getting ahead of ourselves in terms of those of you who are just starting out, but a book is a business and you have to have some sort of a budget for PR, because even the best publishers, unless you're Prince Harry, they are not going to do your PR for you. So publishers today do almost no marketing, except maybe they get you a review in Publishers Week or little things like that. You need a publicist who truly gets you and knows how to get you interviews on and offline and in front of real audiences. This can be costly. I do help market my authors' books, and getting a new author in front of groups for bulk sales and client acquisition, along with various kinds of media interviews, is not easy. Not going to pretend it's easy, but you can get creative and know how to get through to your targets in irresistible ways. And I will talk more about this, but for example, if you follow certain journalists and you see what they're interested in, and then your book is similar to something that they're talking about, that is a wonderful way to approach them and can be very specific and successful. All right, so let's talk about how to time block so that you can write your story or work with a ghostwriter or editor. So time blocking is important in every aspect of life, and I'm guilty of not being the best time blocker, but you have to have some consistent block of time when you sit down and write. And I don't know if you are a morning person or a night person, but you want to determine when you can put some time aside in all our busy lives and give yourself a goal to complete a certain number of words, finish your chapter, refine a plot point. If you're working with a ghostwriter like myself or an editor, you really want to know when they need to tape you, when they're going to review your draft, how you're going to get the feedback, and how you're going to brainstorm. So identifying the time blocks in your daily or weekly schedule that you can dedicate to writing or collaborating is very important. Consider your energy levels. I'm a morning person. I can get up, have a cup of coffee, and start writing. But I know people who write best late at night, sometimes with a drink. But it depends. So if you set aside specific blocks of time each day or week solely for writing, in other words, you might say, okay, each morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., I'm going to write no matter what. You can use digital calendars like Google Calendar, Microsoft Outlook, or other project management apps to schedule your time blocks. Set reminders to stay on track. And if you prefer a physical planner, write down your time blocks and keep them visible to reinforce your commitment. And then after the 2 hours or 1 hour or whatever you can do, walk away wherever you are. And I also say, don't, just kind of let it come out of you, stream of consciousness. You can always go back and edit it, but get it out. Make sure that your writing environment is conducive to your productivity, which means maybe put your cell phone away for a while, use noise canceling headphones, work in a quiet space, and tell the people in your life, including your dogs maybe, to not interrupt you during your dedicated writing or collaborating time. And people will respect that when they see that you're serious. So, and then you want to regularly review your progress to see if you are meeting your writing goals or your collaboration sessions successful. If you find certain time blocks aren't working, adjust your schedule. For example, you might shift your writing time to a different part of the day if you're finding it hard to focus in the morning. But be religious about that time that you give to it. Ensure that your schedule allows for breaks and downtime to avoid burnout. Writing and collaborating require mental energy, so take care of your well-being. Okay, you want to know how most ghostwriters and editors work and what it costs. So ghostwriters are just that. We work anonymously, meaning the ghostwriter is typically not credited as the author. The work is published under the name of the person they're ghostwriting for. I do have a few books, and I'll show you some books a little later, where it says, and Judy Katz, or with Judy Katz. And they offered that to me, but I did not require it. And in my writer for hire agreement, it says that all rights, every right, the ancillary rights, the foreign rights, the film rights, they all belong to the author, not to me. So, both ghostwriters and editors rely on feedback from their author to keep things on a high quality standard. Both roles, ghostwriter, editor, require managing timelines and the progress of the manuscript through the drafting, the editing, the finalization. I'm going to tell you how I work in a minute, but ghostwriters often start with detailed discussions to understand you, the author's vision, the goals, the key messages for the book, and this includes the concept, the tone, and the style. We define the scope of the work, the timelines, and the fees, and there's usually a contract. And we just keep working together until we have a detailed outline, a table of contents, which really is your roadmap for the entire book. And ghostwriters draft the manuscript based on the agreed outline that we have. And a table of contents is organic. So chapter 7 might become chapter 3. We might move things around, but it's, at least we have an outline. This is going forward. This is our roadmap. We are there to capture your voice and your style and your content. So we revise the manuscript based on your feedback and overall clarity, coherence, and quality. We make sure the manuscript is polished and ready for submission or publication, addressing any last-minute changes. Let me tell you how I work. So people come to me and we sit and we talk about, or on the phone or Zoom or in person, and they tell me the book they want to write. And I'll tell you honestly, very often the book that they think they should write is not the book they should write. It's like Edgar Allan Poe's The Cast of Amontillado. They're so close to their own life that they don't see the life lessons that they really should be sharing. So we shut out, we find the right book for them, the unique, wonderful book that they should write. And then we talk about the fee, and then I do a writer for hire agreement, which spells out the time frame, the fee schedule, and it takes about anywhere from 8 months to a year, could be a little faster, to get the book done and out into the world. So it really depends. I ask my authors for a minimum of 1 hour a week, and I tape them. And those 8 or 10 or 12 interview sessions become the table of contents and the book that we write. That's what I do. And sometimes I have to interview other people in their lives to get some perspective. So that's something else that's part of it. So the first payment takes care of 2 to 2.5 months when we get that whole story out and the table of contents. And they also get the prologue or the introduction or the first chapter. So you see what the writing is. And then there's the next fee in the 3rd month, which covers 3 chapters. They get 3 chapters that month, and it goes on until we have the entire book. And part of what I do is get them a literary agent, if that's what they want, or I help them put the book on Amazon, and then we talk about marketing as a separate project. So that is how I work. So an editor is not a ghostwriter. An editor is working with your book that you wrote. You know, they don't start with a blank sheet. And they start by going through your whole book, the manuscript, the structure, the content, the overall quality of it. They're going to tell you what they think, and then they're going to tell you how they can, and show you how they can make it better. So again, there's different kinds of editing, as I said, developmental, line editing, and copy editing and proofreading. Okay. So how do you get an agent to take a book to a traditional publisher, and what's involved? I'm not going to blow smoke. I'm going to tell you, and I've been down this road for a decade. Securing a literary agent can be challenging, particularly for an unknown first-time author. But there is a real need for content, and having a well-prepared manuscript and a strong query letter can significantly improve your chances. Persistence and professionalism are key throughout this process. And at some point after this program is over, if any of you want to see some of the query letters that I've written that have gotten agents and some of them that have gotten publishers, I'll be happy to show you. But that is really important, as is the summary of your book. Talk about that again a little later. So you want to be sure that your manuscript, when it's ready to go to an agent, is complete and polished. By the way, for a fiction book, you must have the entire book written. That has to be done. But for nonfiction, you need a book proposal. And the book proposal I've done many of them, so I can tell you what it is. It is about the author, why you're uniquely qualified to write your own story, so that's no problem. An overview, what your book is all about. Comparable books, you want to show how your book is like some bestsellers and why yours is different or better. So you need a few of those recent books. You want who your audience is, who's going to read your book. And you want, this is a very important part of the book proposal, the marketing, how you are going to help market it. And look, very few people have hundreds of thousands of followers online or even millions. But if you have an unusual story, you can still do well. And of course, what you're going to say in that section on marketing is that you're going to hire a book agent, a book PR person who knows how to get you out there. And that's something that you most likely are going to have some kind of a budget for, and I'll talk about what that costs in a little bit. So consider having a professional editor refine your manuscript, because this can make it more appealing to agents and publishers. Now, how do you get an agent? Well, I know several agents, but I mean, that's because I'm in the field. If you're doing it yourself, you want to look for agents who specialize in your genre or your category. Like, you can go to Writer's Market. You can get the Writer's Market. You can go to Query Tracking. There are agent profiles on literary agency websites. It's a Google thing. I want you to know that every agent has specific submission guidelines, meaning some of them say, send me the first 10 pages and the author bio. Some of them say, send me the summary, the author bio, and 3 chapters. Very few of them, and nobody wants attachments. You got to paste it into the email. They will not read attachments until they ask for it. And it's a very slow process, usually. So your email gets in a slush pile line, so to speak. But there are ways to get agents, especially if you work with somebody who's a professional in the field and already knows agents and knows who would like your kind of a book. And of course, if you're going to self-publish, you don't need an agent. There are also publishing houses that are independent, smaller houses that you do not need an agent. You can go directly to them. And there's some good things about that, because they're hungry. You know, a random house is not hungry. They get the creme de la creme, so they're very fussy. But the smaller houses are more open to something that's a little different, a little daring, to a new author. They're hungry for that. They want to discover the next Elvis, you know. So that's one of the things the query letter is so important. I can't overstress that, because it has to summarize your book, highlight its unique aspects, and provide some information about yourself. There are a lot of sample query letters on the internet. And I have to tell you that AI, I'm not threatened by AI. I'm starting to learn how to really use it. And I write a query letter, and then I give it to ChatGPT, and I say, make it more compelling, make it more dramatic, make it sound more like whoever the author is that I want it to sound like. And the things that it comes back with very often have some unique qualities to it. And then I edit it again, because, you know, I don't want it to sound too robotic or anything like that. But AI, if it's used properly, can be absolutely remarkable, and it's a tool. And And again, if anybody wants to see samples of any of this, I'll be happy to help you. So the synopsis is usually, the synopsis for fiction is usually just a summary of 1 or 2 pages. For nonfiction, it should be a bit, maybe 3 pages in your proposal. And the proposal also includes a few sample chapters. You can get away with just 2 or 3, but it doesn't have to be the first chapter, second chapter, third chapter. So I'll give you an example. I helped write a book called Galaxy Lessons from a Canine Hero. So this, I'm a dog crazy person. So Galaxy was a badly abused, horribly abused, not a pit bull, but an American bully. It's called an American bully. It looks like a pit bull, big dog. And she was adopted by this family in Las Vegas, and they discovered that she had a gift. She had a gift for healing broken people, sad people, suicidal people. So she got training as a therapy dog, and they took her to a rehabilitation place. And they went around, and this is chapter 5 in the book, just so you know. And they went into, and the nurse that was with Jen Wilson, who's the author of the book that I work with, said, you don't want to go in there. It was a darkened room, and in that room, in a wheelchair, in the back of the room, was a 25-year-old soldier back from Afghanistan. He had lost 2 legs and an arm, and he didn't want to talk to anybody. He just wanted to die, and he's sitting there. So they said to him, Kevin, would you like a dog visit? And he just grunted. So they let Galaxy loose, and Galaxy went over to this young man and put her big blocky head in his lap and looked into his eyes. And this boy looked into the dog's eyes, and they didn't move 1 inch. He didn't raise his good arm to pet the dog, nothing, for half an hour. And the dog went out. The next week, the dog came back and did the same thing. Blocky head on the lap, looked at the man, half an hour and left. The 3rd week, they got a call, Jen got a call. We have a special request from somebody. She didn't know who it was. They went back to the rehab at an odd hour. And it was Kevin, the young soldier. Galaxy ran over to him, put her head on his lap, looked at him, and he started to cry. He started to scream. It was like his guts were coming out of him. He howled for 45 minutes. And afterwards, he apologized to Jen, who was standing in the back of the darkened room. And he said, I'm sorry you had to hear that. And she said, I didn't hear anything, it's fine. He got his own American bully. He got prostheses. He's living with his parents. He got a job. He is transformed. And that is just one story out of several that are remarkable. The Disney is considering this book right now. And so is Mattel. I got an agent immediately. I mean, dog stories are very good, but I use that chapter because that was one of the most meaningful chapters. And so that's what I'm telling you, you can do with your book. So your proposal is very important. And I told you the elements of it. I just want to say at this stage of our talk, rejection is a normal part of the process. It's probably a normal part of life. I always think of every no as getting me one step closer to yes. I know it's a cliche, but you know what? It works because I always get the yes, but it can take time. And some agents are very good about reading over the book and suggesting changes. If you have an agent who expresses interest in your book, you want to respond promptly and provide any additional materials. Sometimes they want a full resume. Sometimes they want some other things. If the agent is interested, they'll offer to represent you. This usually involves a discussion about the agent's vision for your book. And hopefully it matches your vision for your book and their approach to submission. In other words, do they just send it to one person at a time, or do they send it to a whole bunch? I encourage them to send it out widely, because I would like to see auctions. You know, I want a bidding war to start on your book. And then once they get one person who says yes, they can go back to another one who hasn't weighed in yet, or who says I'm interested, and say we have an offer from so-and-so, and that starts a bidding war. So I believe in simultaneously putting it out in a big way. Your agent might provide feedback on your manuscript and about its marketability before submitting it to publishers. I also help the agents by looking at publishers and seeing what kind of books they like, so that maybe they haven't thought about them. You know, I had a few books with Andrews McMeel, and they are a wonderful publisher. And they did the little blue book. They do these kind of little cute books. So, you know, it really depends on the kind of reception that they think your book might get. And if a publisher is interested, let me tell you that the agent's worth the 15% they get. That's the standard, 15%. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to have to pay 15% to an agent. Well, they negotiate more than you could negotiate on your own. You need an agent if you're going to go for a traditional publishing. You do need an agent, and they're so worth that 15%, because they handle all the negotiations, and they help you understand and negotiate the terms of your publishing contract, including advances, royalties, and rights. And by the way, I think somebody asked a question about this, and I'll answer it later, but you get paid in tranches. You get, you know, the advances are not big these years, but an average low one would be 35 to 50,000, and you get it in 3 different payments. You get something up front, then you get it when you give them most of the book, and then when it's finished, you get the rest of it. And then you know, the royalties come in. So you want to work with your publisher and your agent to develop a marketing and promotion plan, which can include book tours, media appearances, speaking opportunities, and online promotion. But you have to be clear on this so there are no disappointments. Again, it's good for them to tell you what they think should be done, but often you have to do it. You need to pay somebody to do that. Okay, and we'll talk about what that costs in a minute. So why you should or should not consider a hybrid publisher. This is a very hot topic. I mean, it's a very difficult topic, because I belong to the Writers Guild and several other writers groups, and it always comes up. People say, I tried to get an agent for months and months for my book, and it's not happening. And then this hybrid publisher came after me, and you know, I don't want to self-publish. There's some prestige. I don't know. I don't even understand exactly what the hybrids do. Well, let me tell you, there are some good hybrids. For example, Morgan James is a very good one. It's a good option if you're willing to invest in your book and you want professional support while you retain more control than you would have with a traditional publisher. But it's critical to evaluate the financial and contractual aspects and compare them with your goals and your resources, because research specific hybrid publishers, read the reviews, see what people say, author testimonials, dig deep. When I look at reviews of products or anything, I don't read all the 5-star. I don't even read all the 1-star. I read the stuff in the middle because that's where the truth lies. Yeah, so spending the money is the downside, but there are pros. The pros are that hybrid publishers often provide professional editing, design, and formatting services, which can improve the quality of your book, but understand you're probably helping to pay for it. And they pay for some of it, but you have more control over your manuscript than traditional publishing, where editorial decisions are often made by the publisher. And hybrid publishers offer a faster turnaround. So you can have your book out in months rather than years. If you're eager to get your book out that way, although I'm very high on self-publishing, and I'm going to tell you why. You also will get higher royalties from a hybrid compared to traditional publishing, depending on the terms of the publishing agreement with the hybrid publisher. Hybrid publishers involve a financial investment by you, the author. But it can also mean a more collaborative approach where both parties have a stake in the book's success. Hybrid publishers ask you to cover some or all of the publishing costs, which can be significant. This investment, again, may not guarantee a return or success. And the level of marketing support varies widely. Again, you may need to invest additional time and money in promotion, even with the hybrid. And some hybrids have a PR arm and they ask you to, and I'm not happy with that. While hybrid publishers do often provide some distribution services, it may not be as extensive or impactful as traditional publishers. In other words, they can't get you into Barnes and Noble. They can't get you into some of the bookstores, maybe some of the independents, which, by the way, you can also do yourself. So your book might still face challenges in reaching a wide audience. Okay. So let's go to self-publishing, because it has become, done right, a good option. Even best-selling authors like Stephen King and many others, you can Google that as well, have opted for self-publishing. Why? Well, they already have a fan following, and they don't need to share the revenue with the publisher. They don't need to wait until the publisher is ready to publish the book. They want to write it, get it out. It happens with a lot of the clients that I work with who want to use their books as the ultimate marketing tool. When they decide to write the book, they want to do it right away, and they want to get started using that book to get higher paying clients, to get speaking opportunities, and to up their business. Or they want to write a memoir and they want their family to enjoy it, the children, the children's children, and so on. Self-publishing gives you control over the entire process. But, as you know, it requires you to handle or manage various aspects of book production and marketing. So it can be a rewarding experience if you're ready to take on those responsibilities. You have to make sure that your manuscript is polished and ready for publication. I cannot tell you how many books I've seen, not my books, that had typos, that had terrible errors. And I don't even know how people are willing to put a book out like that, but they do. So again, a professional editor and proofreader can catch errors you might have missed. And, you know, as the author, and I mean, I'm guilty of this too, it's very easy not to see a misplaced typo, to not see that the period always goes inside the end quote, and people put it outside. And there's so many little missing words, misspellings. So you also want to format your manuscript when you self-publish to the platform you choose. Is it going to be a hardcover? Is it going to be print on demand, soft cover? Is it going to be an ebook? Are you doing an audio book to go with it? You know, it has to have the right size, the right margins, the right headers. Everything has to be consistent. You know, the typeface has to be consistent. There are tools, and I'll just rattle them off, but we can talk about it at length. Tools like Scrivener, Readsy, and even Microsoft Word can help you with formatting. But again, if that's not your thing, you know, then you need to hire somebody who does it easily. Very important. Having a professional looking cover. You can hire a graphic designer or use tools like Canva if you're confident in your design skills, which I am not. A compelling cover is crucial for attracting readers. Today, you can ask AI like ChatGPT for one to do a cover. They do remarkable covers, but usually it's the image. They do the image, and then you would get a designer to do the print, the color, etc. A friend of mine did 3 covers with AI, and I don't have them here to show you, but if any of you email me, I will show you those covers, and they're remarkable, beautifully done. So Canva, C-A-N-V-A, covers a range of design tools, including AI-driven features. Adobe Express is another tool for easy creation of book covers. Photor, F-O-T-O-R, is yet another one. And then there's something called Book Cover Design Services. And there are websites like 99 Designs and Fiverr, F-I-V-E-R-R, Fiverr, which has freelance designers who can create custom and even AI-generated book covers for you, and they're very inexpensive. You know, AI, there are so many tools out there, but again, you have to know how to use them, like Midjourney, DALL-E, Artbreeder. I mean, Design Hill, Placeit. There are just so many, and they're not easy. Okay, so when you use, if any of you were to use any of these tools, or you hire someone to use the tools, you want to be sure to check the licensing and use your rights for any AI generated images or designs to ensure they fit your needs, and also if you can use them legally. And a lot of those you can use legally, and you can use them free a few times, but sometimes it gets to a point where you have to pay. Like a lot of things online today, you know, they let you have certain things for free, and then if you want more, you have to pay. So you want to choose, if you're going to self-publish, you want to choose your publishing platform. So Amazon has Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, which is one of the most popular platforms for ebooks and print-on-demand paperbacks. And then there's Draft to Digital and Smashwords. These are platforms that can distribute your book to multiple retailers like Apple Books, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. And I also use Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark offers a wide distribution option and can be used to get your book into bookstores and libraries, Ingram Spark. So to convert your manuscript into an ebook format, like EPUB or Mobi, you go to platforms like KDP that I mentioned, or Draft to Digital, and they often do the conversions for you. So if you're publishing a print book, upload your formatted manuscript along with the cover files to the chosen platform, and they put it all together. Then you have to decide on the price of your book, which I help people with, of course. So consider the cost of production, your target market, and what similar books are priced at. If you look at other books and see, I happen to use 1995 a lot. Because when you do back of the room sales, people pull out a $20 bill. Unless you take credit cards and they still give you $20. So here's what it costs you for print on demand. Hardcovers are more. Amazon deducts two costs, a printing cost and a royalty fee. So here's how it works. Amazon deducts a printing cost for the sales price of each book. They're going to do print on demand. You're not paying them. They're going to take a portion. So the cost depends on factors like the page count of the book, the trim size, whether it's in color or black and white. Most book interiors are black and white, obviously. And printing costs are generally between $2.15 and $4.50 per copy. For color interiors, the cost can range much higher from $4.50 to $10.50 or more. Okay, so Amazon takes a percentage of the book's list price as its royalty fee, the printing and the royalty. For paperbacks, Amazon typically takes 60% of the list price minus the printing cost. Yes, 60%. This means you receive 40% of the list price minus the printing cost. There are no additional fees to list your book on Amazon. However, if you're using optional services like professional cover design, which they can give you, or additional marketing, those would be extra. So let's walk through a typical example for a $20 paperback. List price, $19.95, we'll call it $20. That's the price at which the book is sold to customers, online or even back of the room sales. The printing cost, as I said, is $4. That's what it costs Amazon to print each copy of the book, and they get 60%. So Amazon's, here's the breakdown. Amazon's share is 60% of $20, which is, if my math is right, $12. Your royalties. So you subtract the printing cost and the royalty, $12 and $4 leaves you $8. You would earn $8 in royalties for each book sold at a $20 list price. That's what you get. So obviously, it's not a fortune of money. It's not the $20, but remember, it's costing you nothing to do anything. Amazon does it for you. And that's what they get. The Kindle direct publishing platform itself also doesn't charge a fee for converting your ebook into their ebook, and Kindle are the same thing, but the Kindle is what Amazon ebooks are called, Kindle format. When you upload an ebook to KDP, the platform automatically converts your manuscript into the Kindle format. It is different. The pagination is different. You don't always need an ISBN or barcode, which I'll explain in a minute. This conversion is included as part of the publishing process. So there are no additional costs for the service. So once everything is set up, you are publishing your book. And each process has each platform rather has a process for making your book live. So you will need to do a few other things. And I do this for my clients, but you will have to write a summary of your book. And you see that every time you look at a book page on Amazon, you see, a couple of paragraphs, what this book is. And you need to put your bio on the author's page, and you get a free author's page from Amazon for each book. And now is the time, at that point, for you to start getting 5-star reviews. But until the book is actually published, no reviews can go up. Not until the book is for sale, the pub date. But you can do pre-sales. And here's how to make your book. And so you want to go to people and ask them to read. You give them a PDF of your book and have them read it and write something and be ready to put it up as soon as your book is published. So you want to give it to them, a few weeks beforehand. Okay, so here is how to make your book a Amazon bestseller. Very simple. People do it all the time, but you better have some good friends. Pick a date when your book is up for sale, and ask everyone you know that you ever met in your life from kindergarten on to buy the book that day. Doesn't matter what time, but that day. And if your book is in the top 10 in your category, the business book category or the whatever, the story. And we put different categories, and you'll see when you look any book on Amazon, you see it has 3 or 4 different categories. So if it is in the top 10 in your category, you are an Amazon bestseller. Now, the next day, you could go, doesn't matter. If you were in the top 10 on one day, even for 1 hour, you can claim to be an Amazon bestseller because you are. So, is that a Wall Street Journal or New York Times bestseller? No. But you have bragging rights. You do. The other thing that you want to consider is to get a blurb from somebody famous or somebody in your field, a top doctor, a top attorney, a top author, somebody who can, I help a lot of my authors by drafting 6 or 7 or 12 sample blogs, and I let them send them out to people, and they say to people, after you read the book, which a lot of people don't read the whole book, they skim it. If you want to pick one of these and just adjust it or mix and match, and people do, they're busy, but a lot of people just want to write their own, so God bless. And then you have blurbs, testimonials, not the 5-star reviews. This is something to put inside the book where people rave, if you only read one book, this is the book to read, here's the reason. So those are very helpful as well. If you know anybody who's big in your field, or you can get that somebody with a name. I did a crime book with a physician, a doctor, and I got Stephen King to write best damn medical thriller I've read in 25 years. So Stephen King. So we put that above the title, and needless to say, the book sold very, very, very well. And the title of the book is Doing Harm. So it's about a serial killer. So how do you know if your book is any good, if you self-publish it? How would you know that? Well, if the book brings you what you said from the start, remember I said you want to start with your wish list? You want this book to bring you higher paying clients. You want to tell a story of how you overcame trauma or an illness or what have you. And I'll show you some books that I did about that in a little while. So if your book does what you want it to, And it's starting to bring in the clients, and it's starting to get you interviews, and it's starting to get you on panels, and it's starting to do what you need it to do. And if it's a memoir and your family is thrilled, and again, you can do interviews with memoirs, you know, that tells you that the book is good. But I want you to understand that a book is more than just a book. It's a vehicle to tell the world who you are, to share the painful, often painful lessons that you learned in life. And if reading your experiences and hearing your story in the form of an audiobook or watching you talk in a keynote or a panel discussion in front of an audience, the question is, did they come out inspired, comforted, and always, hopefully, entertained? Okay, so here's what I'm proposing tonight. That you don't think beyond writing a book. Rather, think of it as a communications vehicle for a dual purpose. The first purpose, I believe, is to explain you to you. We don't always see ourselves as we really are. And when you write a book, it is remarkable how you learn things about yourself. Writing a book can be cathartic, as it tells you what life lessons you have to share and who your true audiences are. I'm doing a book right now with a guy who was born with a rare birth condition. In the womb, the amnio sac tore off for unknown reasons and wrapped around his foot and his hands. He came out with a foot that had to be amputated and fingers that were fused together. He eventually had to have an artificial leg. This man learned so many life lessons about disability, about bullying, about making it in life. And he built a multi-million-dollar global PR firm for law firms. He went to law school and but the things that he learned, he will tell you right now, I wouldn't change any of that. I wouldn't change anything that happened to me because it gave me such gifts. And a lot of people I know who have had things like that and different things will also sometimes tell you it made me who I am today and I wouldn't change it even though it was painful. So, you know, I also do something that I trademarked. It's called a bookini, B-O-O-K-I-N-I. A bookini is a small book under 100 pages. And that could be very, very successful. You can sell it as an ebook, for example, or even a small book for 99 cents with a very provocative title and subtitle. And who isn't going to spend 99 cents or $1.99 for something that they really, you know, they really want? And you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars if it's done right. And people have. That's another thing that you can Google and you won't believe it. But when you have a small book like that, which by the way is relatively inexpensive to produce, you can self publish it. You have the basis for a TEDx talk, for videos and ads on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And those are all things, by the way, that you could do yourself, but you'd be better off hiring a publicist to do it for you. So let's talk about marketing and promotion. You still with me, everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
here.
I just am looking. Oh, okay. I see some questions. We'll get to that.
Get to it.
Let's talk about marketing and promotion. What it involves, what it costs, and how long you have to continue working with that professional, which is not the rest of your life. So having a strong online presence these days is a real plus to publishers because they feel that will help with the marketing of the book. Obviously, if you're someone with hundreds of thousands or millions of connections online, that can make for greater sales. But in truth, what you need the most is an interesting and exceptionally well-written story aimed intelligently at the kind of audiences that you know want to hear your story, because what you have experienced can make their lives better, can awaken them to certain things about their lives personally and professionally. For example, Jamie, the man who was born with that condition, you know, he wants people to have a different attitude about disability because, and he says this beautifully in his book, everyone has a disability. Just some of them are more obvious because they're on the outside. Everybody has something. So for PR, I hear horror stories. People who paid and they didn't get results, like essentially ignored with excuses. You need to find somebody with whom you have chemistry. Same thing with a ghostwriter, somebody who gets you and who continues to work hard for you and doesn't just shake your hand, take your checks, and make excuses. I send a summary every Friday afternoon to my PR clients for the books I'm marketing. I tell them what happened that week, how we did, and with no sugarcoating, this is what's going on, yes, no, maybe, and what we're doing next week. So there's never any silent dread. Most PR people that I know charge $5,000 a month. There are others who charge less. Just remember, I always tell people when they tell me I'm pricey, in my ghostwriting, I say, well, a Timex tells time and a Rolex tells time. So I think that whatever you each do in life, you should feel you're the Rolex. Always feel that you're the Rolex. And I know I'm the Rolex of ghostwriters. My rate, though, in PR is $10,000 for 3 months. So it is really reasonable. And there's so much that you can get done in a quarter of a year, you know, and then I do require 3 months. But after that, people continue if it makes sense to them. If they're getting the results, then it's worthwhile. Okay, if you self-publish, you're going to need an ISBN and a barcode, which you can purchase yourself. I buy them in blocks of 10, so I put them on my authors' books who self-publish. And I'm happy to share any of these resources with you. You can buy the ISBN, or it's the number. If you look on the back of a book, there's a number back here. And that is the ISBN. And if you buy just one, it's $125. And you can get it at myidentifiers.com, myidentifiers.com. The barcode, which is this thing over here, that's the barcode, is $25. And you can get it from myidentifiers.com, but the company that sells it is called Bowker Publishing Services. And they supply the barcode and they send it to you usually the same day or the next day. And then you send it to your graphic designer to put on the back cover of the book. Okay, people ask me about the Library of Congress number. So the Library of Congress provides a standardized system for cataloging books and other materials, which helps libraries and institutions around the world, and you know, in colleges as well, it's important to organize their collections consistently. So the Library of Congress has unique identifiers called Library of Congress Control Numbers, or LCCNS. And they allow researchers, librarians, and the public to discover and access detailed information about a book, including the author, the title, pub date, edition, subject headings, and all that little stuff and big stuff. And if you're an author, you can apply for the Library of Congress control number through the CIP program. So that's Catalog Information Program. And that's very easy. There's just a link. You just apply there, you submit your manuscript or a detailed description of your book to the CIP program. And if it's approved, then why wouldn't it be? They will assign a number. And once you get that, it should go on your Library of Congress page inside the book, that is a page at the front of the book that has, this is called the Library of Congress page. Right at the front of the book, it's got the title, the subtitle, who published it, the disclaimer, all rights reserved disclaimer, the Library of Congress cataloging, and then like this book, for example, he made millions on it, by the way. It's called Who's Got Your Financial Back by Paul Reback. He's a certified financial professional, and it says the subtitle is Conquering All Challenges with the Right Advisor. Now, he didn't sell a lot of copies of this book. We wrote a cover letter and he sent it out to high net worth people and family offices, and the phone never stopped ringing, and people gave him their multi-million-dollar portfolios because he's a sweetheart. And then I took him on as my certified financial planner because he's remarkable. He just built my portfolio beautifully and I never have to worry. So yeah, this is an instant of a self-published book that did exceptionally well. And you see it has a cover, and I put him on the cover, and then it has some copy in the back, and then it's got 5 testimonials from people, clients and other kinds of people who say, gotta read this book. And he really has a very interesting story, by the way. So I'll show you some other books, but
We have about 5 minutes before we jump into any questions.
oh wow, really? Okay. So let me see then. Going back to the book that's not selling, what have you done to market it? You have to go back. The book is on Amazon, continuously reassess. I know this is forward thinking for a lot of you who are just starting out with books, but it's good to know that even when a book hasn't sold the way you wanted to, there are ways that you can go back and gain insights into your audience, and you and your publicist can come up with provocative topics, and then they pitch you to align with the changing interests and needs of those you want to reach and make you an attractive media guest or speaker. So I wanted to show you a few books that I have done, and I'll hold them up, but I want to say, since we're running out of time, we have gotten over a lot. I hope I've comforted you. I hope I've inspired you, and I hope I've even entertained you. I will now take your questions in a minute, and I want to remind you that Richard is going to give you my email, and you can contact me, and we can set up a time to talk about the unborn book that might be lurking inside your heart and soul now. This book became a documentary, Angel of the Ghetto. And this guy has an extraordinary story. He came here from the Bialystok ghetto with $10 in his pocket, and he built $100 million business in New York. And this story became a documentary. This is a book that did very well, and it is about couples that work together. And it really expanded their business quite a lot, a husband and wife, or boyfriend and girlfriend, or two women, or whomever. When you're a couple, if you want to work together in a business, you should read this book. A real estate person in San Francisco wrote this book, getting the property sold, because she had a very soulful approach. This is a memoir I did with Hadassah Lieberman. You know, her husband Joe died recently. He was going to be the first Jewish vice president. And I don't know if you know who she is, but we really had a good time, and she's got a very interesting story. This is a collection of short stories, Park Avenue to Park Bench. And I did, and then this is just a social worker who did a story about going into the projects and what she found behind those closed doors. It's an extraordinary book called Field Work with an Open Heart. And here's a book, No Investors, No Problem. And that's about, you know, investing. And there's so many wonderful books. This man lives in New Orleans, and he had cancer, and it robbed him of half his face, but he lived, he's still alive. He beat cancer in the most remarkable way, and he wanted people to know he is no more or no less. An artful cancer journey, a remarkable community, a rediscovered purpose, and I interviewed every doctor who took care of him. And this book made a huge difference in his life. So this was also self-published, but it did exceptionally well, and everybody in New Orleans was reading it. I did The Next Great Awakening with, this was the first book in English by a Japanese guru who has several million followers, and it's Happy Science is the name of the organization. This guy was the most quoted guy on Wall Street, and he found that meetings are a waste of time. So he wrote, "Get me out of this meeting, get me out of this meeting." And people loved it. Why meetings and conferences are a huge waste of time and money. And this got him on all kinds of programs to be interviewed. And people agree that meetings can be a big waste of time. So that was a lot of fun. And then there was a movie that I worked on called Finding Julia, and we did a book to match. And this book was a huge hit. The movie was a huge hit. And so the book was very successful. And you know, all kinds of books, Sensation, How Companies Can Capture Today's Hottest Market, Women Business Owners and Executives. I could go on, but you can go to my website and you'll see all the books and the write-ups and what people say about working with a ghostwriter. So I guess I used up my time. Where did it go?
Wow, where did time fly? Wow, look at all that.
Time flies. Thank you so much for listening. I hope I didn't chew your ears off, but I'm so passionate about helping people become successful authors.
That's great. Thank you, Judy. Okay, so now we're going to take about a half an hour questions. I'm going to go into the chat.
Okay.
Questions, feel free now to add it into the chat, and we will go through pretty much all of them, because we have a half an hour. So add it, and we're going to try to go in as much order as possible.
So
So
somebody, do you want to read the questions, or how do you want to do it?
questions, Judy, to you. Okay. So Greg asked, does anyone test drive book chapters and ideas? That is, use writing platforms like medium.com or Subtract or social media?
I'm trying to understand the question.
Let's see. Greg, are you still? Okay, maybe Greg had to jump off. But I guess, you know, using platforms like medium.com, right, to, I guess, showcase your piece.
So yes, Medium lets people write an essay. And the essay could be a chapter of a book. I read those. I think some of them are absolutely marvelous. I mean, do they get you an agent? I would be a little skeptical, but you can take a chapter, have it published on Medium, and then use it to try to get yourself an agent or a publisher. So there are a lot of those kind of, they're kind of like the literary magazine of yesteryear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jen has a question. Do you have any advice for those who experience writer's block?
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to find reasons to not write. I just think that it's like any muscle. When you exercise it, believe me, I have a gym in my building, and I have to force myself to go down to the treadmill or whatever, and I just do it. And so that I say, get past it, get over it. Writer's block is just procrastination. Do what I suggested. Take a time. I don't care if you sit there for the hour or the 2 hours. Just sit there and it'll come to you. I get ideas at 2 and 3 in the morning sometimes, and I have to jump up and write it down or it's lost. But I do think that inspiration will come. You know, the answer to writer's block is to just sit down and write. Just write. It'll come out of you. It's there. It's in you.
Okay, thank you. Stephanie says, can you get an advance payment for your book based on your proposal?
So how that works is, yes, the answer is yes. The book proposal is requested by the publisher. They read it, and they, with the sample chapters and all the parts that I described, and then they make you an offer. That's when they make you an offer. And they say the advance will be X. And that's where your literary agent comes in to negotiate. Well, we want more. But yes, as soon as there's a contract for the book and you've agreed to the advance, the amount of the advance, you get a check. And by the way, the check goes to the agent. The agent takes out his or her 15% and sends you the rest. That's how it works.
Okay, Cynthia asks, how do we find smaller publishing houses that are open to new authors?
It is so easy. You just go on Google and put in, a soundbite. Independent publishers with no agent needed, or any kind of a sentence like that, and it'll pop up. So easy. If you call me, I'll do it with you. But they're out there, and there are many of them.
Okay. CJ asks, can you recommend a professional for children's book?
A professional what?
You're on, do you want to clarify? I know you're on mute. I don't know
if you mean a professional editor.
Before you were mentioning, I guess an editor, yes.
Sure. If you contact me, I'll give you some, some names. Children's books are tough. They are. So you just want to find the right person, because you have to know the age group, the range. You have to know the vocabulary that matches that age group. And if it's going to be illustrated, you're going to have to probably pay an illustrator yourself, But again, Fiverr and a lot of those places have absolutely marvelous illustrators who work very inexpensively because they want to get out there.
Okay.
But sure, I'll be happy to help you.
And also,
Thank you.
do I need an illustrated version of my children's books? I have the text, but no pictures. If so, how do I go about finding the illustrator?
So,
Thank you.
again, I know illustrators, but there's so many. I mean, it is a rich ore out there. What you want to do, I would start with looking at some illustrated books, and the name is always there. It's
Okay.
either on the Library of Congress page or in the acknowledgements where the person thanks my illustrator, and then you can go to their website. Those people might be more expensive than what you want to spend, so you can also go to FIVERR, Fiverr, or one of the other places like that. Finding an illustrator means make sure it matches what you have in your heart and soul, what you want, because there are line drawings, there are, three-dimensional kind of drawings, like, where the wild things are, which I love. So it really depends on what kind of an artist you want, but they're out there in droves.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, honey, sure.
Jen asked, the concept of starting a bidding war is interesting, but have you a lot of publishers who do not allow for simultaneous submissions?
There's no such thing as they're not allowing for simultaneous submissions. They don't know who your agent sent the book proposal to, or sent the manuscript to. It comes into the agent. It's not like they sit around in a room and say, oh, you got a copy of that? I got a copy of that. No, it's all done in private. See, the problem is that in order to get a bidding war, you have to go out to multiple publishers. You have to start getting, some traction and getting some interest. And once you have one good publisher interested, you can then go back to others and say, it's like selling an apartment. You can say, we have an offer and we are going to give you until next week to come up with, your offer. And you don't tell them what the offer is. And then they come back, and very often it's, bigger. Or you could say, well, we already have that. It's just like selling a co-op or a condo in New York.
Okay, thank you. So Sasha asked, can you send us the list of book cover designers? Do you have a
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I would be happy to email me at jcatscreative@gmail, and I'm not going to assume everybody wants the same thing. Ask me for what you want and I'll help you. I have a guy named Tony who has done multiple covers for me, and he's really good and extremely reasonable. And then I know some other people also who are good. So I'll give you some names, and you can, but you have to tell me, is this a novel, or is this a memoir, or is this a business book, or what is it? Because there are different kinds of illustrators.
So I'm also everyone, but I put in the chat Judy's email, so that if everyone wants to get the spelling down of it, I put it just in the chat here. But I am going to send everyone an email as well. But if anyone wants to write that down, okay. Next we have what is your favorite book writing app, platform, or software? MS Word, Google Docs, Scrivener, Plotter. Which do you recommend for aspiring novelists?
I think that aspiring, wait, can you ask me that question again? Because I'm not sure what it is that they want to do. What is it you want to do? And then I can offer you some advice.
Jen, did you want to jump in? Okay.
Yeah, hi Judy, this is Jen.
All right.
I'm kind of curious, like which platform you would recommend for people who want to write chapter books, lengthy. So, there's different ones out there like Google Docs or Microsoft Word. What one in
I
particular
use
do you like?
Microsoft Word as my Bible.
Okay.
I mean, Google Docs is good, but I love Microsoft Word. That's the one I would recommend. Yeah.
Okay, thank
You
you.
know, write your novel.
Mhm.
Then let me do a book report for you and we'll see if we can make it a best.
All right,
Thanks, Judy.
You know some book to movie agents.
all right. Cynthia asked if I'm self-publishing, do I need a website? Do I need my own company or LLC?
No, no, you don't need any of that. I mean, I have a website because I have a business and I have an S corp. But you don't need an LLC. You are a freelancer in that regard, or maybe you have another professional business and you're writing the novel. The only reason to have a website, and you can also, by the way, if you self-publish, you can use your author page on Amazon as your sort of mini website. But websites are not expensive, and the good thing is that you can start building up a readership. You can start building up numbers. You know, having a website to me is a very valuable tool, and it could be very simple. It does not have to be a whole big blown out fancy thing. You know, and I can give you somebody who does websites very inexpensively, and he's remarkable. And it's good to have it because then you could, let's say, put up a chapter and ask people to come and read it. Or you could put up your bio and start getting people excited about the book that's coming. So I do think that people should have a website, but to answer your question, you don't need a website, you don't need an LLC, you're not a doctor, lawyer necessarily, that, you know, you're a writer. And that's all you need is to write a good book and put it out there. Yeah.
Teresa asks, any recommendations for academic writers? Academic publishers price books to high to ever get large sales or earn anything from getting the book.
You know, a lot of the universities do have their own press. Princeton has, Harvard has, my school had, you know, and in all honesty, my experience is that they want you to pay. They, you know, they don't have a lot of money to publish the book. So what you're getting is prestige. They either ask you to contribute something or pay for it entirely, but they will print it, you know, they use their press and they, or they may even, you know, put it out differently. But Hadassah went to a publishing university. You're not going to make a lot of money that way. The way my Wall Street Journal bestseller book did, it's in colleges all over the country right now, called A Question of Respect, bringing us together in a deeply divided nation by a Republican and a Democrat who are tired of all this nonsense, name calling, bitterness, anger, frustration. So they wrote this book. The money is in speaking opportunities. It's not, and in book sales to some extent. But academic is tough, you know, you're not going to make a fortune with that necessarily. But if
May I just interject a point here, Richard? May I?
of course,
Teresa, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say my book is already published. I'm already published author. And
oh,
I
okay.
have a book, and I'm just asking because I'm looking at trying to make some transition. And because the reason why my book's not selling is because the price is so expensive. That's the main reason. I mean, because I'm on Amazon, I have a website, I'm doing things I'm supposed to do, but because of you know, the price of the book is so expensive, no one's buying the book. So that's the main reason, because I think it would have sold more, but it was an academic press that actually published the book. So in essence, you know, it's you're not going to make any money from it. So, you know,
Right.
I'm just saying, you know, you mentioned about press. I don't really have that much prestige per se. So what, you know, so I'm just saying, I don't want to go through that again and write another book and the same thing occur. So I just was going to ask, you know, if you have any recommendations to do transition to maybe a trade as opposed to an academic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the other thing, I don't know what your rights are, what, you know, what they have and what you own. But you can also do the smaller book, the Bikini, and pull out some aspect from that very expensive, maybe hardcover book, and put it out as a smaller book, you know, in your own words, hopefully not, you know, not jargony, but something that will catch fire with the public. And you can do that inexpensively. If you have any rights left. Did they take everything?
Pretty much, the only thing I saved was the media piece, which I think is significant. That's the only thing I was able to save.
Right, right. So your question is, can you write another book that is a trade book? I'm not 100% understanding
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
I'm just saying it to transition from the academic, because I mean, I'm an academic. That's one hat I have. But my
Okay.
point is, you know, it's a different discussion when you're saying, you know, you're writing a book and so forth. I mean, because I had a really hard time getting my book published, and the only one who would take it was the academic press. But the cost of how much the book is, I knew that it wasn't going to sell, because I don't care how great the book is. It's a great book. I'm telling you, I can tell people, I'll put in the chat, everybody can look it up and give me your opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion, but it's an academic book. So even the theme, the topic, it's a great topic, but the publisher was an academic press. I mean, the book, $90, who's gonna buy a $90 book? So that's,
Okay.
so
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. So I want to avoid that for the next book. That's what I'm saying.
You should. 100%, you know, and so write another book and talk to me about it, because $20, $30, maybe $25, but $90. I don't know why they did that. But you have the prestige of having, you know, a very expensive and maybe very big book published. So good for you. Now build on that.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
How much money should one be prepared to invest to publish a book?
The last 3 books I did, I got $75,000 to $100,000, and it took a year, and they made the money back many times over. But again, you know, there are other people who charge 25, 35, 50. It's more like 50,000 is the average for a full-blown 250-page book. And then it depends on which of the editors you hire. It depends on your ambition. You know, it is an investment in your business for most people. The people I've worked with is pretty much an investment in their business or a memoir. But you're gonna need at least the money to market the book. You're gonna need 25, 30,000 minimum, even if you self-publish, because you have to get a good cover, you have to get a graphic, the interior designer, you know, you want to market the book, all of that, you know, unless you do a smaller book of Bikini, and then you could spend 15 or 20,000, but you still have to market it, and that costs money, you know. So it really depends on what, if you see it as a tool to communicate and build your business. People use it as a marketing tool very successfully. Yeah.
Michael asks, what elements of an author's platform are considered most important to publishers' social media following? History of published articles or something else? And Michael, if you want to elaborate, feel free to chime on in.
I was just wondering whether that's changed over the years in terms of what publishers look for. Is it followership? Is it being on TED Talk? What is the most effective way to build the kind of platform that a publisher would find desirable?
Well, they would like to know that you have good numbers in terms of followers. Like on LinkedIn, I only have 3,500, but those are all loyal people who look at everything that I show them. And you know, I follow a couple of thousand people and they follow me. I don't even know what following exactly entails in terms of following me. But again, what I said earlier about following the kinds of people who, you know, write for magazines or newspapers, who could do you some good, who are influencers. I think that's what they look for is, you know, what kind of numbers, but also what organizations do you belong to? Are you a member of clubs that you could speak at? You know, and of course, going to a good university and maybe belonging to the Alumni Association would help. Mostly you need to be somebody who's willing to get out there and really push your book, you know, do interviews. They do look at numbers a little bit more than some of us would like, but yeah, there are ways to get around that.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Do you recommend publishing a audiobook at the same time as the paperback? What about paperback versus hardcover?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in audiobooks, and I think that you can wait a few months to do the audiobook. You don't have to do it exactly when your book comes out. Most people do it a little bit later. They want to see how their book is selling and whether they have to make any changes to how they're going to do it. Some people do an audiobook pretty much, not exactly the day their book comes out, but pretty close to it. So that they can say, I have the book, the soft cover book, and I have the audio book, you know, but you can absolutely, some people do it 6 months later. I'm not a big proponent of hardcover. It's much more expensive. Just like interior color is incredibly expensive. And I don't think you need a hardcover. I love the idea that you can take a book and you can put it in your purse or in your backpack or, you know, like that. You can take it on the train, the bus, the car, you know. I like soft cover. I love this. But, you know, I have done some hardcover books. Here's one. Love Leadership, What the World Needs Now, you know. Sensation, she wanted a hardcover. We did a hardcover. But it is black and white inside. It is black and white. Hadassah wanted her book to have a hardcover. So we did. Yeah. This is Brandeis, by the way, Brandeis University Press.
Okay. And Cynthia, maybe you want to clarify how much money do you make in speaking engagements, meaning that authors or like published authors?
Yeah, Judy had mentioned that you make most of your money in speaking engagements because of the book. So I was wondering what are going rates?
Okay, so with speakers bureaus, you have to be somebody in order to get a speakers bureau to handle you, to take you on, so they promote you. You have to be making $5,000 to $10,000 regularly. So most people are not when they start out. What I mean is, for example, I've done books with attorneys, doctors, people who have a specialty, and I can get them. Well, sometimes they speak for free just because they want more business. You know, they want to attract more clients or customers. But also, if they're a doctor or lawyer on Wall Street or a consultant, there may be organizations that have an annual meeting and they want that person to be a speaker. They don't pay a lot, you know, unless you're already making thousands of dollars, you know. So 5,000 or 10,000 you might be able to get for a keynote, and maybe less for a panel. But the idea is to start getting those credibilities, start getting known. And then when people hear you speak, they'll be more willing to give you a stipend or a decent fee. So a lot of the speaking opportunities I get, frankly, are not paid, but they're huge opportunities to be seen and heard by your target audiences. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very nice. So that, does anyone else have any questions that they want to ask Judy? that's seems like it's at the end on the chat, but does anyone want to chime on in with any questions?
So
Okay.
I got an additional question. Thank you, Judy. So you mentioned a couple of elements and people that would be important to have in your book journey. So the agent, and so if you could walk us through all the elements that you think are necessary to have a successful book, just in summary, that would be great. Thank you.
Oh my God, you have to have a well-written book. If you're doing a nonfiction book, you need a book proposal. And the book proposal is the elements that I said, you know, about the author, an overview, the marketing plan, the comparable books that you compare yours to, who the audience is, and sample chapters, and of course, a table of contents. You know, that's what you have to have. And that is what's going to get you an agent with a good query letter. So you need a good query letter, a pitch letter to agents. And once you have an agent, it all starts to fall into place. And you have to have some kind of a budget in mind for PR down the road. It's still a year away, but you know, you have to think about that, because a lot of people come to me and, like I said, they don't market their books and they think it's just going to magically sell, and because they know it's great. But you know, the best products in the world have to be advertised.
Judy, Lori asked how to find a children's book agent.
Yeah, I mean, there are two ways. One is to go on Amazon, look at some children's books, see in the acknowledgments who they thank. You know, there's always going to be that agent that they say, thank you to my agent, blah, blah, blah. And also Google children's book agents. That's a no-brainer, you know, and then see what books go to those people's websites, see what books those people worked on, and are they going to be the right fit for your kind of book?
Very nice. Anyone else have any questions? And I'm going to email everyone Judy's contact. I also put it in the chat, or direct email, so everyone could reach out to Judy to set up some talk about anything, you know, your book or just any other questions you may have. You know, I want to thank Judy very, very much for participating today.
Thank you guys so much. And I hope I hear from some of you.
You know, I hope everyone found this lecture very informative, and that you came away with the next step closer to being the next New York Times bestseller. See some of you on that list someday. So I want to thank everyone, you know, for participating today. Every month we do a different lecture series. We just previously did, last month we did a whole lecture series on AI and how it's affecting the world, and how it's affecting job markets, the stock market, healthcare, privacy issues. That was a really fascinating one. Some ones that we do have lined up is how to get involved in Broadway productions and producing a Broadway show, how you could get yourself involved, whether investing or producing. That we have lined up this fall, which is very exciting. And if any of you have a specific you know, topic that you want to hear about, please reach out to me. And welcome, you know, any you know, feedback and any of your interests, so that we could create a lecture that you may be interested in. There's a lot of great hot topics, you know, affecting the world today, and you know, we would love to showcase and educate you on different fun topics that you may be interested in. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to email everyone after this lecture with the recording of today's lecture, so you could go back and see any questions or anything that you would like from the video. And stay tuned for the next September lecture. Another fascinating topic. And we have a lot of other really fun events in person as well that we have. We have a lot of networking events coming up. We have, sporting events for those that are interested in sporting events. So keep a lookout. I'll send you guys our Instagram and Facebook pages so you could follow along as well. So I want to thank everyone for participating, and you'll receive an email with all of Judy's information and a list of upcoming events that we have planned. So I want to thank everyone for participating this evening. And thank you, Judy, very much for your time.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
All you beautiful people. It's
The
been a
2
lot.
hours flew by.
Yeah, it did.
It was amazing.
Oh,
Great session.
Thank you so much, and I'm more than happy to talk to any of you.
Thank you so
More or
much.
less 24/7.
Thank you.
All right.
Everyone, see you soon.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Bye.
You.